My name is Himanish Goel, and I welcome you all to the Everyday Consultants podcast show, where we talk about the uncertain trajectory it takes for stepping into the shoes of a consultant's mind, from adapting to constantly learn, to research and develop their own theories, objectives, and opinions, to advising businesses from their area of expertise, to communicate the fine line between an SME and polymath. Thanks for taking the time to join me, and let's tune in to today's episode of learning more about the dealing of inflation and its rise in perspective, uncertainty from what's next after the pandemic days for everyone. So for today's episode, as we've all seen that with the market crashing and AWS laying off folks, Azure laying off folks from a glitch that has happened, cloud being in ham. These days, skills just going to the roof of how much do you know, how much can you contribute. The major pandemic hiring that has caused this shift to happen has made a significant mark of how and why this inflation even came in the first place. But before I even go about talking what, the impacts are going to be for inflation, or how is it going to affect each and every one of us, I'm going to start with a sort of reference to what this episode's going to entail towards, based on these wonderful, based on the crux of why it's happened. And that's the symptoms for every man and every woman is that in any sort of particular situation, whether that's similar to you, them, her, who, anyone, there's a particular nature talking, whether that's the way you think, walk, feel, sense, envision, whatever that might be. And that's many more of the common attributes of what we as humans have. But a rich man that has symptoms by which he's known as a rich man, as a diseased man that has his symptoms by which he's known as a disease, or a learned man that has symptoms so he's with which he's known to be learned, all have various dealings to these symptoms of how it speaks for them, and its speech in the most qualitative way of that boy or girl. And that a fool is undiscovered as long as he does not speak, and certainly a well-dressed fool cannot be identified unless he speaks, but as soon as he speaks, he reveals himself at once. So, the main message is, when a man or a woman give up all varieties of sense desire which arise from mental concoction, and when his mind finds satisfaction in the self alone, he's said to be in pure transcendental consciousness, or also known as the sage of a steady mind, because he's not only free from attachment, but he's not also elated when there's happiness, and same goes with fear and anger. So what that goes to say is, there tends to be a panic mode that gets put on for all of us, whether that's, being a part of a new wave that we've just not experienced before, whether that encourages the fact that we don't know what will happen next, whether it's unemployment, whether that's, you're going through a rough period of your time, whatever it is, we all eventually get through. But it's just the way of how to see those naturistic things and to separate our mind from the other things that are happening is what will allow us to not look at it from a negative sense. Because as you've noticed, when the pandemic happened, first the whole positivity vibe started coming in because there was more of a different routine, more than the fixed ongoing routine, which was a totally different industry before 2020. But now, with that shift of positivity, wellness, and other changes coming within those 2020, 2021 years, there's just been a sort of huge, been incremental changes, but also not enough. It with so many options, it keeps it even vast because of thinking that everything should have been positive based on everything else going negative. With everything going in the right direction. Besides that, the pandemic and all the other things that were happening, that this was just a part of the perfect Sunday that we wished to happen, which we all didn't. It's a two-dimensional way of looking at it, right? Positivity of wellness came in, but the negativity of all the other effects that were positive before have now started kicking in. So if I were you or anyone, just advising wise, don't make this perspective of uncertainty fogged up for yourself, because that's only going to lead to more stress and fear, anger, anxiety, and hit a point to where loneliness comes in. And that what next that you're having to deal with, and that everyone's having to deal with ever since 2020 came into everyone's lives, is to start exploring other things that you can touch upon, or things that you were interested in doing, or it's looking at based on what market will be the next go-to, or what are some other skills I can try to divert myself towards. Looking for options, looking for things that you want to do but didn't have the time to, is now the perfect time. It's right now that you can make that shift, because of, even though there might be higher hours on the project, to make that shift for starting something new. So when that next shift happens and you're not on a project, or you're not as active, or you're just not you're just not working on any sort of industry related problem, that will keep you busy. That will start to push you, that will start to energize your levels and start to help you think, okay, maybe this is not what I wanted to do. We all, as individuals, go through this industry, through business, through a full-time professional, through non-profits. We've all been through that phase. And basically, it just happens to be that we don't see that ourselves and appreciate it because it happened in such a fast tangent. And unless you do not look at the side of inflation from two perspectives, that it's happening, but I can't destroy my other things, and I should probably look at pursuing other things so I can make myself more skillable, make myself more wellable. And the reason I'm putting that edible in next to it is because as humans, we were meant to do edible things to make us edible learners, so that we can achieve edible success based on our terms, with the help of our people with the help of our relationships, but from our hard work. So if you're sitting looking as a student, as a full-time professional in the consulting world, wherever you are, whether you're on a project and you're stressed about getting staffed off the project, whether you're stressed about what's going to happen next, take a deep breath and look at what is mandatory to keep you wellable, what do you need to do to become skillable if you're not, and if you are skillable, but that field is not in demand of roles, and what else can you do to put uniqueness and skillable together? Because those are the only, wellable, skillable, edible are the only three things that will help you to grow outside professional working terms. Now inside that, it's more manageable, relationable, and I think the other one you'd mostly want to say as it's between deliverable and impact is a bit of a strong word, so I would have to say on that as more solutionable. Let's put it like that. Because impact, that comes with time. And sometimes it's not in this type of context, it's not going to be the best way of using it. But manageable, relationable, solutionable, or deliverable, those are the professional side of things that you should be focusing on that are on the top of your point. Because if you're manageable, everyone wants to work with you. If you're relationable, you get to know people, getting outside your comfort zone. Increasing those soft skills doesn't seem as a positive benefit, but it definitely is. Because when you talk strong and you look strong mentally and just emotionally, it helps you to convey a stronger message within that 30-second pitch, or within the time that basically when you're speaking, it shows within your words. Let's put it like that. Solutionable and deliverable. Those are more on getting the work done, but also can you deliver to the mark to which the client or the company or your manager, your team can say that he's meeting above expectations in terms of results, but is also making that solid justification that his work is contributing to the success of XYZ project, for XYZ company, for whatever ABC industry that might be. And so that is what I want you to focus on, the able part in your personal and professional life, and see how can you balance that out. Because the more you start to figure out how to on this light switch on and off, when it needs to be on during inflation, when it needs to be off, and how it can track within how you can best navigate it by yourself, is going to be very, very beneficial for future inflations, for less stress, for less anxiety, and a better you, so that if you are performing at a peak when the light switches off, that when it does turn on, it doesn't impact you from 0 to 100 at all. And I think if I were to summarize this episode within one sentence, that's: don't let the horse catch up to you. Be the horse that runs against the wind. Because I'm telling you, if you keep on catching up to the horse, after one point, you're gonna take a water break. But if you go with the wind, so much more easier to not lose yourself in the emotional instability. Wow, I can't talk today. But if you can, try as much as you can to figure out how this best works for you. And if it does help you, be sure to leave the comments below in the podcast show, your reviews, your rating, how much you enjoyed the show. And as always, keep striving, keep learning, and keep on continuing to put on that consultant's hat. And stay tuned for the next episode of Everyday Consultants. See ya. Please be sure to subscribe to the podcast and also leave a review of how much you enjoyed listening to Everyday Consultants. While you're at it, be sure to provide any feedback you might have on my LinkedIn posts in the comments below. And if you know of a friend who's curious about learning quick bites of information regarding the life of a consultant, then be sure to recommend my show to them or anyone that you think might benefit from listening to it. If you want to connect with me, you can find me on LinkedIn, Reddit, and Twitter by searching my name on the platform. If you're interested in looking at some of my other professional content that is currently in the works, then in that case, you can take a look at my Linktree portfolio that can be found below in the description or show notes of this episode. Don't forget to tune in to listening to all episodes of Everyday Consultants and wherever you're able to find your local podcast. Until next time, stay broad, be curious, and be passionate about listening to a conversation where knowledgeable advice gets provided about the world of consulting, about a consultant in our next episode. Peace out.